Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Power Apps Learning. In this class, we will be learning about Dataverse. What is Dataverse? How to create tables in Dataverse? What are all the various data types we have in Dataverse? And also creating relationships in Dataverse. Without any further delay, let us see the basic or the flow down of the entire platform where exactly this Dataverse is sitting. Before that, what is Dataverse? Dataverse is a cloud based database engine exclusively designed for Power Platform by Microsoft. I repeat, Dataverse is a cloud based database engine exclusively created for Power Platform by Microsoft. Before it named as Dataverse, it was named as CDS. What is CDS? Common Data Services. I repeat, before they named it as Dataverse, they named it as CDS, Common Data Services. In CDS, so later they renamed it as Dataverse. In Dataverse, we can create tables, establish relations, and also the Dataverse sits inside the Power Platform. It was uh, it was not a scratch built database. What does that mean? It was not created from the scratch for this platform. This is already a existing database model in Dynamics 365 CRM environment. So Microsoft had cloned the same structure or the phenomena of the database engine, and they plugged that into Power Platform and they named it as Dataverse, which means this database engine is a proved and working model in Office 365 environment. Here, if you see the if you see here, the Dataverse can communicate with Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agent. In fact, there is another thing called Power Pages. So this is exclusively sitting in Power Platform environment to perform the data operations. Now, when we look at the various versions of Dataverse in Power Platform, there are two versions of it. One is called a classic Dataverse and the other one is called Dataverse for Teams. I repeat, when we see the versions of Dataverse, there are two versions. One is Dataverse for Teams and a classic Dataverse. What is Dataverse for Teams? Microsoft has a chat message engine which they call it as Microsoft Teams. In that, user can communicate with their team members, they can schedule meetings, they can organize all the other events by creating various groups under that. That is called in a wholly in an overall picture, that is called Microsoft Teams. In that environment also, user can create power apps, power automate flows. When user create any artifact under Microsoft Teams, it creates Dataverse environment to store the data. That environment is called Dataverse for Teams environment. Whereas when we are communicating with Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, outside Teams, also these apps are created with make.powerapps.com or make.powerautomate.com portals. When we create apps from Power App portal and connect to Dataverse, that environment or that version of database is called classic database. When we look at the overall architecture or overall capabilities of the Dataverse, it has every element which a database engine should support or database engine should have the capability of. Before we go any further, when we are performing operations with Dataverse, each and every call of the Dataverse, which means creating a record, updating a record, deleting a record, or reading a record, any operation which we are performing on Dataverse will internally it is a API call, okay, which is a specific to that database. And when we look at the capabilities which we get from Dataverse, the first and foremost one is security, because when user is storing their data into their database, the first element every user look for is the security for their database. So in Dataverse, the security is the highest priority, and the user also can authenticate or authorize this set of tables is only for this set of audience. This set of tables is only for this set of audience. I can, me being the owner or me being the admin of the Dataverse environment, I can say these are all the tables. I do not want it to be global. I want this to be reserved for a particular team. And the authorization in Dataverse environments works with Azure Active Directory accounts. The very same account which you are using to get into Power Platform is the same account or the same user ID we use to communicate to Dataverse tables. That is all about security. When it comes to the next layer of the capability is logical. Why? What is the significance of this layer is, when we are storing the data, we require some logical operations to be performed. A classic example, when we are implementing an app which is online car rental management. In that, when we are submitting or finalizing the user selection and doing a checkout, what we need to do, we need to do the math for how many days user is opting this car and what is the actual rental of this car, and then what would be the total amount by end of this rental period. That minimum math we need to calculate, right? So that kind of a logical operations, or if we are doing a roll up, meaning I have 3 transactions or 30 transactions in a month for that rental agency. End of the month, I want the total transactions or total rental amount to be roll up and need to store that as the monthly invoice. That kind of a logical operations we should be able to do. That is supported as part of logic layer. Also, I want to ensure or I want to enforce user to say when they select the user type as woman, or when they type the gender of the user as woman, I should ask, are you pregnant? When I am giving a rental to the logged in user and logged in user select the gender of the user as woman, now I wanted to check if the driver is driver is pregnant or not pregnant, because I do not want to rent my car. I do not want to rent my car to a pregnant lady, which means that I am changing my logic on fly. Okay, so which that type of business rules I can implement as part of logic layer. Third one is the data. This is where we are categorizing or modeling the data with respect to the data which we are storing. Meaning, I can store the data with a relational model, because Dataverse is very, 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 very advanced and it supports nth degree of data normalization. When we are implementing data, we have to ensure that we do not carry any duplicate data across my tables. When we are implementing tables without duplication, we have to implement a concept called normalization, which means we are designing our data in a meticulous way to ensure I am not wasting any of my storage limits. Also, from that data, we can create reporting. So all that kind of plugins or procedures need to be supported. That entire phenomena is covered as part of data layer. And the next one is storage. How Dataverse store this data in the backend tables. Dataverse store the data in tables, and also it can store files, attachments into the system. So it organizes all the data into the layer into the system, which is implemented as part of storage layer. In storage layer, it also supports or it also explains or it also has a logic how the system stores the data, if it is a plain text or if it is file, how it will store that piece of logic implemented as part of storage layer. Last but not least is integration. Today, when we are implementing any system, what end user or what business is looking is what is the capability of this system integrate with any other system. Is it a pluggable? Can I leverage this database outside this environment? Can I communicate with this data? This kind of integrated capabilities or something users or the industry is very much looking into. So when we come into this database engine, integration is highly supported. In fact, user can communicate with Azure functions and webhooks, and also we can export the data from this database to Excel, SQL, whatnot. We can integrate with many other applications outside Power Platform. This is all about the Dataverse in a aerial way. Any questions so far? In Power Platform, when we are operating with the Dataverse or when we are creating tables with Dataverse, the best practice is you need to create something called solutions. Why you need to create solutions? Remember, in an organization, when you are creating an app with Dataverse as a backend, which means that you will not create one table, you will end up creating more than one table. Along with that, you also have a Power App. Along with that, you may have a Power Automate flows also to automate any of your jobs, isn't it? So when you have more than one artifact, it is always recommended or it is always a best practice to encapsulate or bind those artifacts as part of solutions. Why should we have to do that? Today we are doing only for our academic projects, but or we are doing for our practice, but in the real IT environment, what we will do, we will create the project in the development environment, and once our development is done, we have to migrate to the next level, which is user acceptance testing, UAT, user acceptance testing layer, wherein the end user will come and validate all the functionalities which we have implemented, and then they will give a sign off to move on to production. So in a real IT environment, there will be three layers default we see. One is the development layer, other one is UAT layer, and other one is production layer. When users start implementing, they first implement in the development layer. Once the development is done and ready for user testing, they move that solution or the artifacts into UAT layer. Once UAT sign off is provided, it will be moved on to production layer, which is good. But how do we move all these artifacts if we do not encapsulate into a solution? Is a nightmare. And we are all human, tend to forget one or the other element. If you miss one element, it is another issue, because without that element, if you forward or upgrade into next layer, it will not work as expected, isn't it? So what? We need to encapsulate or we need to bind all the artifacts into one bucket or into one box, is called solutions. Okay. Solutions are two types. One is called managed solution and the other one is called unmanaged solution. I repeat, solutions are two types. One is unmanaged and the other one is managed solution. What is the difference between unmanaged and managed solution? In a unmanaged solution, sorry, as and when you create a solution in Power Platform, by default it is a unmanaged solution. When you create a solution as an unmanaged solution, or when you import or when you move the solution from one layer to another layer as an unmanaged solution, all the artifacts or all the elements in that solution are editable. Oh, one second. Okay, when we create solution as a unmanaged solution, in that unmanaged solution, user get a flexibility to edit all the elements in that solution. Whereas if the solution is a managed solution, user cannot edit anything. Example, when my solution is a managed solution and I noticed a issue with my Power App or a flow in that solution, can I go and edit and fix that app or a flow? Unfortunately, no, you cannot do that. However, you can create an unmanaged solution layer for that solution and you can do all the circuits there. But by default, it will not let the user to make the changes on those artifacts. Solutions are very, very, very important elements in the application lifecycle management of Power Platform. Okay. So when now we will learn how to create a solution in Power Platform. Also, when you are getting a flexibility to create a table in your default environment, well and good. If you are not able to do that, and if you get a message stating that database is not existed or you cannot create tables or any error message, the best approach is you need to create another environment with the type developer, which is exactly what I did for Sonam. When I try to fix the issue on Sonam's environment, I noticed that she is not able to create tables in her environment. So I created a new environment with the type developer. How could I do that is come on to gear icon. Under gear icon, click admin center. Environments or environments in Power Platform are various types. I strongly remember this is something we already discussed in the beginning classes, right? Now we are creating one of the we are creating one environment with the type as developer. Click on environments in the admin portal. Click on environments in the admin portal and click on new. When you click on new, it will give you a flexibility to create a new environment. Now I am creating as development or Manu hyphen dev. This one I am creating as with the type developer. Here I am specifying this is for my Power Apps project with Dataverse environment, and here when I select the developer, it is by default selecting the create database for this environment as yes. Okay, but whereas if I select it as a trial environment, notice that it is not assigned the database by default. But whereas if I just select a developer, it default assigned the Dataverse environment to this environment. Dataverse capabilities to this environment. Then next, click on next, and don't need to touch anything. No need to touch anything. Click on save. So once you click on save, what happens is it will create a brand new environment for this tenant. Again, if you see the tables here in the default environment and got a capability to create new table, do not have to create an environment, but there is nothing wrong if you create an environment. Okay, so it says that the new environment is in preparation. It can be used once ready. So once this is ready, it will show like this: new environment manu-dev has been successfully created. But it will take probably 5 to 10 minutes for you to see as part of your list of environments when you click on environments. Okay, so since this tenant is with the capability to create tables, I'm going with the next step. What is my next step? I am first creating, there is something called solution, right? There are two elements. One is creating a new solution from the scratch, or import a existing solution. Okay, I'm creating a new solution. What is this new solution? I'm going to call whatever is my project name. My project name is wet care, so I am calling it as wet care. Okay, and what are the important aspects when we are creating a solution? Each and every element in Power Platform or in Dataverse in Power Platform will come with a default prefix. If you notice here, there is a default prefix called MSDYN. Is everybody able to see that? So this prefix comes by default from Microsoft when they float the environment, or when they float the platform. But I want to differentiate my artifacts or my elements, my columns, my tables with a specific name that will only come with the publisher. Meaning, when I am creating the project or solution, I have to create, or I can associate, or I have to associate something called publisher. When I click on that, it says that default publisher or CDS default publisher. Okay, when I click on new publisher, it will ask you, hey buddy, what is the publisher name you want to create? Okay, I want to create wet care. So VC is my display name, and what is the name? Wet care is the name, and what is the prefix I want? VC is the prefix I want. Now you see how it will come as each and every object will be preceded with the name as VC, and followed by my table name, followed by my column name, followed by my flow name, everything followed by my solution name. Are you getting me? This is called internal naming convention. So this is what it is. And choice value prefix, preferably do not have to touch that, leave it as it is. Okay, save. Now once you click on save, what it will do is it will create a prefix or a publisher for your solution. Once that is done, it automatically shows as part of your list of publishers you could associate into your solution. Now I want to create or I want to associate my artifacts or my solution elements with the name Wetcare or VC. And what is the version? It is a brand new solution, so I leave it as 1.0.0. Okay, and provide, if you want any custom pages, for now just leave it as it is and provide a description for the solution. This is for wet care project for maintaining all the details, some description as it is appropriate to you guys. Click on create. This will create a shell or a box or a environment for you to add all your artifacts related to your solution. There it is. It created a solution for you to start creating all the artifacts for your project. Okay, this is how you need to create solutions. So once the solution is created, the UI for the solution looks like this. It will show you all the elements on the solution with the option as all, and if you want to see only the apps under the solution, you can click by you can view by clicking on the apps and chatbots, which is called Power Virtual Agent, chatbots, and cloud flows. All the Power Automate flows are called cloud flows, and the tables associated in that solution. Now here we want to create one artifact. Now it is also give you, hey buddy, what do you want to create? Are you willing to create an app, table, automation, which is nothing but flow, or a security group? What you wanted to create? First I want to create a table. So again, table, how you want to create a table? As a fresh blank table or create from the existing data or external data, right? They have implemented something called virtual tables in Dataverse, which is an advanced topic we are not going to touch. So we are going to create a table as a blank table. Okay, click on table. Once you click on table, it will give you a set of steps which you wanted to create, which you want to define for the table. What is the display name of the table? There are two naming conventions for every artifact in Power Platform. One is the display name, other one is the internal name. Okay, now I want to create the doctor details. Okay, because in a veterinary care, first thing is we have to have the doctor details, right? So this is the doctor detail, and if you notice, there is internal name automatically created without the space. Are you guys able to see, or you want me to increase the font a little bit? See, schema name or the internal name automatically created without the space. Now if I say details for my VC, see, doesn't matter how many spaces, how long I am giving, it is adding my internal name without the spaces. However, if I am not happy with the standard schema name what it is giving, I can always say DC details is my table name. I can change my table name, table internal name, while I am creating the table. Once the table is created, you cannot change the internal name. Remember, once the table is created, that's all. You cannot change the internal name. Okay, now I do not want all this, so also you cannot create a table internal name with the special characters. You cannot create with spaces. Okay, And what is the type of this table? As is a standard table, activity table, or a virtual table? I told you, right? A virtual table. We are not going to create a virtual table. We are creating it as a standard table. Okay. Who is the owner of this table? Leave it as it is. Okay. And if you want to create any image out of the box, you can always just say one image, probably an analytical component. It will come right here. We will see in a minute. Okay. And leave all the other properties as default. These are all advanced elements we are not going to cover because it will take forever. Okay. This is to list all the doctors in the in my vet care. Okay. Last but not least, always enable attachments for the table, because if you do not enable attachments for a table and you create the table, you cannot upload the documents. See, when we are working with the forms, we notice that there is a field on the form called attachments, right? If you want to see that attachments, you have to enable this option. Enable attachments for this table. Clear? And then if you want to change, as and when you create a table, you will get one column by default with the table, which is name is by default. If you are not interested with that display name, you can always change the display name, which is my primary is doctor ID, or sorry, doctor name. Okay, clear? And here I can define what is the number of characters I wanted to give to that particular field or column in the table. Okay, I don't think anybody will have more than 100 characters, so I'm good. And what is this business required? Means that it is a mandatory field. It is a required field. And when you go here, I can always say optional. Okay. Now I am going to create a new table. Now click on save. When you click on save, it immediately create a table for you under that solution. Okay. Now once it is created, we will see count for tables as 1. Let's let it get complete. There it is. It got created, and see that table count is 1, right? And also it has come up with another element at my solution level as web resource, because when I'm creating the table, I have associated a particular icon to my table, right? So that icon has to be bundled with that solution when I move my solution from one layer to another layer. So that icon, it added as part of web resources. And also I see the count got increased for my tables. Now when I go to here, you see that all artifacts or all the elements inside my solution are 2. One is table and the other one is the web resource. When I go here, I can see all those elements right there. You see that analytical component image SVG, which I have assigned to the table, isn't it? So this is how we can create a table. Okay, table got created successfully. So how does a table columns we can create? When you click on the table, from the tables menu on the left hand side, this is how it will show. It will show you what is the name of the table and everything. If you want to change any of the property, which you could be able to change, see this. When I click on the gear icon at the properties of the table, I can see the table name, table display name, plural name, and also the other artifacts which I can change, which is like table icon I can change, and also I can change the description and other some of the properties. But notice that the logical name or internal name is grayed out. Notice that, which is why when we are creating the table itself, we need to define how you want to see your schema name. Okay. Now you can create additional columns by clicking on columns. It will show you all the columns in the table. But notice I have not created this many columns. Where these columns have come from, right? When you create a table, it comes with some default columns which are called created by, created on, blah blah blah, all the defined defined columns. These are called predefined columns for that particular table. Okay, for that particular table. Now how do you know what are your columns? Called custom columns is in the search on the top right, say vc underscore. When you say that, it will show you the columns which are related or which are particular to this table. And remember, we have created only doctor name. Where did this come from? When I am creating the table, I know this doctor name is the primary column I have created. Then where did this come from? When you create a table, each and every row of the table will come up with a unique identifier which gets created while you are creating the table. This is a 16 or 24 digit or 24 characters unique identifier for each and every record. Okay. Now I want to create a rest of my columns. Column number, next column is, when you are creating the column, next set of columns in your table, it will let you select what is the type of the database, data type of the column. But whereas when you are creating for the first time, that column is by default single line of text, which is a text column. You see that what is the data type is single line of text. The default column which get created with the table is always single line of text. Now let's go ahead and create the next set of columns, doctor ID. Okay, I'm going to create the doctor ID. This is to store doctor ID. Single line of text, format is text format, and behavior is simple, or it's a calculated column. It is not a calculated column, it's a simple straightforward column. What is calculated column? When I am creating the column wherein I want to multiply two columns and get the result. When I want to say, like example, in my car rental, I have taken 4 cars rental. Each car is say like $100. I want to create another column as total rental price, and that we will create a calculated column wherein we will define that into this is automatically becomes a calculated column and the value will fall in place. Okay. So that is what is the calculated column. Next one is, as I told you, business required is always a required field. But what is recommended? Some fields we can create them as a recommended. When you create that field as a recommended, it shows the star icon, but it will not force you to provide the value. Example, what are your specializations in your doctorate? It is always recommended, or it is good to have. It is not mandatory to provide those values under specialization. How does it matter for the specialization of the doctor, right? Now it is here. I'm giving it as a required because I want to see the doctor ID as a mandatory value. And the next one is advanced. I told you always each and every column will come with something called schema name, internal name. This is the doctor ID. Okay, and followed by how many number of characters I want. And auto number IME, we don't have to worry about it. Enable column security is again advanced topic. We are not going to touch that. Okay, and it is a sortable column. Once the data is started adding and I want to give a sort facility on that table, on that column, that is where we will say is it sortable or not. Okay, now we are done. We have provided all the details for this column and I'm clicking on save. There it is. I got doctor ID and internal name is doctor ID. Go to that column. See, again, I cannot change the behavior. I can change the data type, but it can be changed to plain text or auto number only. Did you realize that? Right? So, always remember the data type you cannot change. So decide the data type before you create. If you have a data type wrong, you have to delete the column and add the column again. Okay, and you can change the maximum count, characters count, and also you can change the dashboard behavior of sortable or not sortable. Okay, these are all the things. Now we will create another column with the data type as auto number. Auto number. Okay, this one is again what we create this as. Assume this doctor ID which we have created as the public ID, which is could be Aadhaar number or his driver's license number we wanted to create. Okay, assume. Now I am going to create the doctor employee ID. Okay, in my hospital, what is his employee ID? I'm just creating just to explain this. Once I create this, I'll delete this column because doctor ID itself is good enough. Okay, I'm creating it as auto number and this is doctor's employee ID. And notice that when I select the data type as auto number, I got additional what you call parameters, which is auto number type, what is the type and what is the prefix. Now if I just change that to single line of text, under text, see that single line of text, that has gone, right? What is the prefix and what is that? It's gone. Now I am just switching back to auto number. See this prefix number is string or date prefix number or custom. I'll say custom, and here I'll say the format is sequence of that and the string format. See this is how it is going to come. See that preview is 100. Now if I just make it as 001, it automatically come the value as this, and here the random string of 4 it is coming, it is just taking, right? So what, that number is coming dynamically. And if I say sequence number is only 3, automatically it cut down to 001. Sequence number is 2, notice this value here. And if I say revert back to 3, and random string is 4 characters, rather one, I'll say 1, 2, 3. Notice that? Or if I want to provide my own string as what, or vet doctor, anything if I want to give. Okay, if in case if I want to give the prefix value as the SUV cards or the specific card or the car ID 001, car 001, car 002, 0023 car, something like that. Okay, this is the prefix value. This is helpful when we are querying the table for the particular record, because this is unique auto generated number. It is not a number which will get assigned to another record. Okay, it is a unique number, auto number. Okay, now advanced properties, again it shows the maximum number of characters and IME. And remember, we also have optional or required here. Okay, we'll say as required because it is auto generated, there is nothing you can do on that. Select save. This way I can create another columns into my table. I'll show you another data type which is tricky and interesting, is choice. Because we need choice to define gender, or we need choice to define the location details, say like which is what is the name of the city, all those things. Okay, also there is another thing called lookup. We will discuss that lookup again. Now when you click on choice, you can always again say the what you call optional or required. Let me create the name as, now this is a choice field, and this is again the behavior is simple, and because it is not I don't want to create it as a calculated column, and business required, and it is searchable. Also sync with global choices. What is this means is, when you are creating your own choice, is this choice I wanted to available outside my solution, can be used in multiple tables outside this table. When I create one choice into this table, if I want to leverage that into another table, we'll say yes. If I say no, it creates a choice for this particular table only. And also sync this choice with, by default Dataverse has come up with a many type of choice out of the box available. If you see any of these choices are making sense to you, you can always select that. If it is not making any sense, then you can always create your own new choice. Okay, click on new choice. It will ask you what is the choice name. Always prefix with DRP or CHS choices. Okay, all the choice fields must prefix with CHS, so that we know what is that field. Is it a regular field or a choice field? Okay, choice gender. Here I'll say male is the label, and value, do not touch that value, it is auto number. Okay, do not have to. Next one, whatever you see here is what you see as part of your drop down. Okay, these are the two things, and I say yes, save it. Now it will create a choice set for me, which we will see here under all items in a minute. Okay, now come here, choice gender, see that male and female. Select the choice gender. Is there any default value you want to say? I don't want to. Okay, click on save. Once you create that, it got created. There you go. Notice that all became 3 here, and also choices became 1, because I have created one choice set to my project, to my solution. Okay, now go to table, under table go to columns, under columns go to VC underscore. See that This is how I can create many columns to my table. Okay. Dataverse supports normalization, and also it is a relational data model. When it is a relational data model, it always supports something called relation between one table to another table. Okay, how do we create relations between tables? There are three type of relations: one to one, one to many, many to many. Again, one to one to many to many. One doctor can hold many patients, right? As well, one director, one director of the organization can have many veterinary hospitals, right? One prescription could be associated to any number of patients, right? If it is a flu running in the city, and veterinary doctor advise one particular prescription, that we could associate to many dogs, right? Many what you call pets, right? That is one to many. Many to many is probably in this project it doesn't work. In case of car rental, one user can take many cars as well. One car could have been taken by many rental users, right? So one car could be associated with many rented users, as well one rented user could have many number of cars, meaning car C1 would have user 1, user 2, as well user 1 could have car 1, car 2 also, isn't it? Are you able to follow me? This is many to many relation. One to one relation, a user will always hold one driving license, right? I can create one to many relation and many to many relation in my database. Here, now what I am going to do, I am going to create another table to establish relation between doctor and a patient. Okay. Now what I need to do, I need to create a table. So go one step above, click on tables, create a blank table again. I am not going through all the data types because I want you to explore and start creating your tables. Okay, one of the example is when I want to create a new column for address, what is the data type I should use? See this, under text there is another column called text area. That is the one you need to use for the address. Okay, and when I want to create email, phone number, URL, whatever is appropriate you need to use. If it is a number, a whole number, decimal, or it's a time zone, whatever it is. Okay, and the date and time. In date and time, if you want time also to be part of the field or column, you can create date and time. If you are interested in only date, it is like that. Okay, able to follow me? Lookup we will learn now. When we are creating a relation, we will learn the lookup. Okay, now go to tables. I'm going to create another table called patients. When I say patient, it automatically gave me the plural name as patients. Patient details. Patient details. This is to maintain all the patient details. Okay, again enable attachments, because if patient want to provide their profile picture or their pet picture, they should be able to do that. And this is the internal name, and the type table type is standard, and owner is user or team. If I want to select again icon for the table, I can create. These are all the standard options. I don't want to touch at this level. Yes. Now it will create a table with the default name, column name as name. Let's see, because we did not change the primary column name for this table, right? For the patient table, patient details table. Now once it is created, we will see the table name here, and then we will start creating the relation between doctor and the table, patient. As well, in this scenario also, many to many can apply. One doctor can have many patients, as well one pet could have been associated with many doctors, because if it is a general, it is one doctor. If it is primary care or grooming, it could be another doctor, right? The pet could have any diseases, one doctor will handle. If it is only grooming or training, another person will handle, right? Here also many to many. Now here, what I am going to do, I am going to create another column. Before that, when I come here to column and say VC underscore, you see that it also got two columns by default. One is patient detail. Always remember, this unique identifier will come with your table name, okay, and followed by the name, because I did not change my display name of that column, right? So it has come up with name. Now once I create the patient details, now I need to associate my doctor to the patient, right? So this one, how do I create association between the patient and doctor is, I create a new column and I'll say doctor name, and here I'm going to say the lookup, because I have all my doctor details out there. Now I need to map the doctor details here to my patient. Say lookup. Now the time I say lookup, it will automatically tell you, hey buddy, you wanted to look up something. What is your table? What is your parent table? Right? And it is a required or optional, business required. And here I will say, where is this doctor details, right? And when I hover on that, it also shows me the display name on the logical name. There is no concept of confusion whether it is out of the box or my custom created. Now I select that. Under that, I will say what is the internal name and that. When I map to the table, it automatically gives me option to map the doctor. Say that, save it. It creates the column under that table. Once it is created, let's go ahead and add one record. While adding the record, it shows you the details. Now go to doctor details. Now I need to add the data. When I wanted to add the data, I can always say I can add then and there, or I can always add into a new tab. Click on new tab. Under new tab, I need to say what are all the columns I want to see here. If I see the required column here, well and good. If not, I can always say what is the column I want to see here. Doctor details and doctor ID, doctor name, all these columns I wanted to see here, right? Out of that, we don't need these columns, so just hide these columns. also you could hide this, like there it is. If you notice, these two are not editable because this is doctor details will come as a auto generated, sorry, the unique identifier will come, and this is the auto generated. Now here is where I'm going to give my ID. So say like ABC hyphen 12345 is my Aadhaar number. Assume that this is my Aadhaar, and my doctor's name is Manoj. Okay, notice that one row is not saved because the mandatory was not provided. What is the issue here? Was error in saving the record because this is not happy. Okay, what else is the issue? There it is. It is not accepting the hyphen as that, so it got saved. Because when I move to the next column, it validated that mandatory column was not provided. Okay, now I got my doctor details with one record. Now when I go to the next one is patient details. Under patient details, I wanted to create the enter the one detail of my patient. It could be, so here patient details, status, and primary name and doctor name. These are all the columns I wanted to see. If you notice here again, patient detail is unique identifier which comes automatically. Status comes by default as active, and here is the name, say like Tommy, and the doctor name. If you see the doctor name, it comes as the lookup. It comes as a lookup. Now this is also got created. So the reason why I got this error message is this is the mandatory. When I switch that, it created the table without that value. That's what it is. When I refresh that, automatically it will come. Okay, that is how, if I have more than one doctor name, it automatically shows this here. And here, once it is created, I can see the relations here under relationships. When I click on the relationship under parent, under relations and say VC underscore doctor name and many to one. Okay, clear? Many patients can have one doctor, right? Clear or not clear? So this is how we will establish the relation between the tables, and we create various fields in the table. Now it's all yours. In tomorrow's class, we will learn another areas of this Dataverse table. What are views, what are forms for the table. Clear?